Good morning, everyone. What an uneventful bombing. Well, good morning. Good morning. So there was the initial reaction, you know, and ignoring news, just looking at, you know, what's been going on here. Markets yawned was a non-event, and still unknown things that could happen. But the markets remain in a trading range now for over a month and a half, just chopping sideways. So, what is the trade? There is no trade other than credit spreads. I mean, just looking at the broader markets, of course, individual stocks will do what they're going to be doing on their own. And you see the bottoming tail bar here on the futures, just came down to the prior pivot lows, like as if it was, again, a non event. Look to the left, buyers were there. Buyers in that area up now in the middle of the trading range. Can we get to the top of the trading range? Charts. I did it again. There we go. The charts. Um, I was saying, back here, you pick your point, give or take, back from in May, the markets haven't moved. I mean, essentially, yes, they moved down a little, they moved up a little, but they're about in the same places they were back in from May. As I mentioned, without the charts, futures are now S&Ps are in the middle of the trading range. There's plenty of pivots up here. There's going to be sellers, and I suspect unless some news comes out that can move this market, let's hope it's not some disaster. Um, it's gonna. I don't know. Just different tariff news comes out. We've got war coming out, bombings. The uncertainty continues. Um, if bombs didn't move it, what will? Well, we're going to find out together, right? I don't know. Uh, I don't know. We're going to see. Um, obviously, this is a picture of uncertainty, but still bullish. It's flattening out. It could be, not that this triple witching is over. I mean, this part here could be a rounding top where it's ready to pull back to some other area down below. There is an unfilled gap in many charts. So you want to set an alert down there, set an alert at the bottom of the range. And as far as the broader markets go, other than zero DTE, SPX, or day trading, you know, this while we talk about the broader markets, it influences the majority of stocks. So most stocks are not going to move that much. And the uncertainty, that we've spoken about is likely to contain the majority of stocks within ranges or not get too far away from, where they are. And it's boring. It's summer doldrums, whatever. Been through it before. It will eventually pass, as it always does. All right. Other markets we always look at to see, is there something going on that would lead us to believe one market versus another market could be leading? And so as we look around, no. I mean, the NASDAQ, you know, from May, essentially, relatively in the same area. We don't see too many red bars. So as we look for some details, it's still bullish to neutral. And so that tells us that there's more demand, right? I guess relatively equal here, but bullish, bullish price action where the majority believe this is going to break out to the upside. Now, okay, look to the left. The upside and these prior highs here are not that far away. We'll see, I think, by the end of this week, what transpires news-wise, economic news, PCE at the end of the week, Fed chair speaking and so on and so forth, all these things to digest again another week of price action. And as always, we see where things start, we'll see where they end. And still trading range going on there. Dow trading range relatively weaker, could be a greater potential for a topping pattern. Nonetheless, bottom of the range, top of the range, closer to the bottom of the range, so weaker than the others. So the Russell was becoming much more encouraging, that the markets could move higher, especially here where it started to outperform. And it hit the 200 MA. You can see right there. And backed off. Nothing of great significance. And it came back off of the lows. So there are buyers on the dip. And as I said, we'll see where this ends. It's up near these pivots. So it's definitely not an entry point on a short-term basis. And even for an intermediate term basis, we got to see where a bar completes the day. But the move off of the low, it is only, pre-market, but the move off of the low, the depth of retracement, if it can hold on to that gain, suggests it's going to go higher. All right. Gold was higher. Now it's not. So same story, just trading range, uh, price action. However, it got to the top, it's pulled back, a little hook kind of a pattern, pull back to the rising 20. I would set an alert at the top of today's range, see if it can recover. Silver had a little breakout failure. No matter where we look, it's a kind of a wait and see, sit on your hands. And crude oil, this was okay. Can it go higher? So, over the weekend, we hear about bombs going off, what's going to happen, retaliation, and we try to come to some bias as to what's likely to happen. And it's like, well, if it was truly taken seriously, oil wouldn't have backed off from where it was. Technically, it was up at resistance, close to it, and now it's backed off. It's still in an uptrend. The price is still relatively high. So there's still, what's going to happen? Are they going to block those waterways? Whatever's going to happen, we'll see together. But, this being up as much as it was, I thought to myself, well, yeah, this should go higher. It's already up quite a bit. So the only reason this would have continued to go higher, it would have had to have been something considered much more serious than what it was, rather than it backing off. Now, as I said, is the next shoe to drop. What's it going to be? We'll find out. All right. I saw SMHs were down a little bit. Not much, but I didn't see them recovering too much. So the jury's out. This outperformed. So we want to see, can it continue to outperform or not? It's a major part of the markets. Technology has, come up strongly. It's at resistance. And another piece of information suggesting probably we're in for more sideways price action unless some news occurs. Now, interesting that Bitcoin came down as much as it did, right? So here's this uncertainty. Gold popped up a little bit. Bitcoin right away was the first thing to drop, and it was down below 100,000. Now it's broken down. So plenty of overhead resistance up above. So look at those kind of stocks. MSTR, MicroStrategy was beginning to break lower. Actually, it's right on those pivots there, but it's something that's beginning to roll, and you've got this converging of moving averages. So the volatility is contracted after this big move, and set an alert. See if that breaks down, or I'm not putting it to the top of the range. Maybe it comes back up a little bit. So we'll see what happens there. The weekly chart is still bullish to neutral. So we got this red bar, And does this follow through? Does it hold up here? So something I'll be keeping an eye on. Interest rates doing zero here. At the bottom of the range, we've been talking about bigger range, smaller range. Um, Waiting to see what transpires there. Taking a look. VIX, volatility index, and look at internals a little bit. This started to curl up. So now, you see where it's at here. Indecisive. Nobody knows what to do at this time. No one wants to get caught. Right? But if some news comes out that, you know, nothing terrible is going to happen, it may be an all-in type of situation, fear of missing out, and the market spikes higher. We're going to have to see. Everything else. Internals are giving us a zero to go on here. Breath deteriorating a little bit is not a big deal. It's still around the zero line. That is normal. This part wasn't normal, where it started to go up and the breaths was coming down. That was short-term bearish, but so far it's just been working off, the advance that it's had, and just remains in a trading range. Sentiment is neutral, so we can't get a real advantage here as we look around different markets and market internals. So as far as the broader markets go, it leads us to the same answer. Sit on your hands, do nothing other than short-term trades and wait for things to um, develop and give us better information, right, which we don't have yet. Gaps, right? Things are up here a little bit, but we got to look at the underlying and see where they're at. It's unchanged. The Qs are in about the same place they closed in the options expiration. You see the cursor on the hourly chart. The hourly chart with a 65-minute chart is just such a mess. So you see pivot high, pivot low, relatively close together, whipping up and down. And so call it a mess, call it uncertainty. I call it a picture of stay the hell away. We'll see if this red bar follows through. Right? There's an unfilled gap down here. There's converging 50 and 200. And so here was, you might remember, we kind of joked about it, the death cross right there, right, which happened at the low. Sometimes it does. And now we're going to get, right, the golden cross. The 50 is going to push up through the 200. So some price action within the range should, I believe it will, and I think it has to, pull that 50 up above the 200. And then we'll hear the media talk about that. And then the question will be, is that another contrarian piece of information where you get the golden cross? Maybe it pops up to the high of the range and rolls back over again. We'll see. All right. So I'm repeating myself, but no matter where we look, the message is the same. Sometimes we go through these foundational information, exercises, analysis, and it leads us to different things. And here it has not. IWM down a little bit. It's on the 20. We'll see what it does. A little bit more of a bearish reversal there on the weekly. However, nothing of significance here to lead us to do anything. Market-wise, transports, more of the same. Right? Market trading in place. The Dow, I think, has the greatest potential, possibly at least for a short-term move, lower. Nothing's breaking yet, but this is below the 200, and it had popped up above, came back down. It's going sideways. The downside, I think, would be limited, but on a short-term basis, I think if it breaks this lows, it comes down here to test that pivot and the 50 MA. So I'll just go back to the Dow futures for a second. And that ain't happening right at the moment. So set your alerts and we'll wait and see. All right, SPX, we just double check the numbers. Things had come down from where they were. So we see spiders come off the low a little bit more, essentially unchanged, then at the bottom of the trading range. So while we got a bottoming tail bar on the futures there, right? It's the beginning of the day. You can't read much of anything into that for the moment. We look at the underlying, it's essentially unchanged, give or take, maybe up a little bit, right? So you can see the rolling over type of a pattern. Does it follow through and break there, pointing us toward a move lower down into that support area? Right, right now, flattish, but the initial gap down did bring our outside strikes lower. Remember last week, I think it was 60.50. So it was right above here. So, they've come down. The downside came down quite a bit more, which is expected. Um, Weekly chart of SPX, you got a topping tail, which is a new high near resistance, another topping tail. You just will it break lower? Right, so let's just double check this. It's in a little bit, but the downside being further away would make more sense than things coming off of the low and potentially getting up to um, Friday's high. Uh, so this come up a little bit as things come up because, as you know, they move relatively quick. Let's see if the call side came up. No, no. So there you have it. Market wise, SOH, sit on hands. Any downside, if it can break Friday's low, should be limited initially to that 5,900 area. And if it should even test there, the depth of retracement would suggest to me, right, 5,800 in the unfilled gap. What is the significance of the ATR is to give us some guidance on a short-term basis what the extremes would be. Now, that doesn't take into consideration news events that could move the markets, but on a 5-day, a 1 week, 2 week basis, the average true range is what is posted here. So the expectation for 0 TTE and the 6,000 strike still being the largest open interest and give or take 60 points on either side of that, it's unlikely to go further than that other than the risk of news, which is what's keeping everybody sort of on the sidelines or getting too aggressive from buying or selling. Right? So there you go. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. When I saw the news, I thought 99% certain we were going to gift in. It was just a matter of how much. And we actually bought puts on the spiders into the close on Friday for two reasons. One is the charts suggested lower daily, weekly. And secondly, it was an anticipatory news trade also. And so I thought it's just a matter of how big a gain we're going to have. And then when I looked at the futures last night when they opened, and I'm like, you're only down 25. That my initial thought was, man, that's not much at all. And I said, you know what? I wouldn't even be surprised if they turn around and the news starts saying, turning the event and being into a positive, and we open up. So that's what we're doing. So we'll just manage maybe 30-minute higher short put. Keep an eye on that. Alarms, Dell. I had an early alarm go off. We're in trail mode, break even. SPR. I watched, well, I don't see any prints here. My low alarm went off, but I was watching SPR and Boeing, both as short ideas. You got bearish weeklies. Look at Boeing. No, I wish this 50 wasn't there. But I think is this one again, it's a Climo breakout failure, 1, 2, 3. If things do start turning ugly, like this would be first target. But anyway, I got an alarm. Spider alarm went off, obviously. I'm doing nothing now. ASTS went off. This we were given as a call spread idea. So let me say 5-minute low to subscribers. Estee Lauder, we've been watching for a couple days here. It got an upgrade, and so that's triggering. Let me say, let's wait. It's gapping up $1.70. Mr. Greg talked about it. We have a call spread on this. We did two of them. One that expired last week, and on Friday we put on another one that expired this coming Friday. And I also posted 30-minute low. Let's just chill here. Monday, market actually up. And if this takes out a 30-minute low, I like it directionally, has a big void over here. See, I wish Boeing were like this one, meaning I wish the breakdown was occurring right at the 50. So I don't know why my alarm went off. We're in trail mode. TEN, we're in trail mode. Michael Jackson. We're long puts in the advisory. And well, actually, we were long puts, but then we got assigned the stock at 20. Low alarm went off. That looks great. It's also in the ETF letter, CHRW. Okay, so this is an old alarm. We shorted this into the close on Friday. So FDS alarm. I'm sorry, our earnings. No great pattern. I don't know, maybe 30-minute high, put spread, CMC, no pattern. There's our Esther, got an upgrade. Fizzler, this is not earnings, but there's more talk. Trump tweeting that, he's trying to get rid of all these scam credits for these companies. So that's what got them whacked on that gap down last week. These are just miscellaneous news items and watch items. Bravo Kilo. There was some news that they're wanting to merge with Northern Trust. So do you see how the market, whenever you get news of business combinations, mergers, buyouts, the buyout, the acquiree is going to go up, and mergers, the market is telling you how they like it to each stock. So they're saying that this one's going to benefit more by being taken over by BK. That's what the stock is. That's what the price action's telling me. But gap's too big to do anything. Hims, I actually was watching this for a put spread on the last week. And man, we dodged a bullet on that. I don't know what the news is, but that's a nasty gap. Look at all these people trapped that are still holding longs. That's an ugly gap. And so I think NVO is in the same sector. Yeah, that's getting beat up a little bit. CRMD, I forget what the news is. Gap's too big. USA, and this thing trades wild lately. that, things that trade wild like that, I would never swing it because we just don't have the confidence. There's no pattern. But you can day trade it all day long. If whatever time frame you're trading, you get a setup. Here's a couple on Sam's list. Starbucks pull back after breakout. Set an alarm Friday's high. Maybe a put spread if there's any juice. Corning bullish price action. Tapestry. It's a 1, 2, 3. I actually like this. I love when compelling patterns have a small gap against the bias on mornings, because then to trigger, it gives me even more confidence. So just eyeballing that, I'm going to set an alarm at 84.60. Let it fill the gap and get through that closing pivot. And then it would be a gap negated, right? 84.60. So that looks good. Algin, one bar up to prior high and going sideways. Bullish weekly, monthly. Let's see what that does. Just have Ollie North alarm. It's top of the range, but we have a continuation here with this bear sandwich, and it's a bullish weekly, monthly. So let me subscribers have a handle that. Sam's list. So that, hey Sam, do you have a brother named Craig by chance? You know that company, Craig's List? And this is Sam's list. I know you have a club, Sam's Club. I know that. So this is breakdown. Mike Sierra, Morgan Stanley, bullish consolidation and an uptrend. I got an alarm. FedEx has earnings tomorrow. I saw in the news that the founder died. And I love the story, what they say that he, he gave his report in college on the FedEx business model, and the professor gave him a C, and then he turned it into a company with 500,000 employees. UPS trying to bottom, but it'll, I'm sure it's gonna be affected with FedEx earnings tomorrow. Look at the pickup in volume on Friday, and it didn't do anything, but you got a discount pickup in volume with triple witching days. Lay's little buy set up here, gapping down, so I have an alarm at 402. Talked about that. Oh, Paul alarm. We are short puts, and I tightened the stop last week's low. And we are also long a half lot of this in the ETF letter. Bullish daily, weekly, monthly. Reset the alarm. CME, Boeing, CME alarm. Let's wait 5 minutes on CME. Just, Monday, I don't like entering in the first 5 minutes. ALK. Now that's cleaner, so that one's a go. That's a short. That's off Alex's list. Alex's list doesn't have the same ring as Craig's list. Craig's list was a famous online exchange, not exchange, you know what I mean. MTG. Let's wait 5 minute high. MDB. Oh shoot, we're in this thing. Um, yeah, we did a half lot. Mr. Alarm. Wow, nice. That's Greg, I gave 30-minute low. You want to give half lot, 5-minute low? That's great. I say yes. RJF alarm. Another financial here. This could be a 30-minute high trade. SMCI. Oh man, we bought a half lot of that also on Friday. And remember, I got lucky. I sold mine into that strength. I'm like, man, I'll take my money and reload on Monday. But that doesn't look good. On Netflix, we were watching for a call spread if the market falls. Aluminum alarm. I'm not doing anything now. Marriott, I had a low alarm. It's not a bear flag, but it's just bear consolidation. I like the 1, 2, 3 extended weekly. That's 30-minute low, short idea. TFX. Um, Alex list, breakdown watch. Let me reset my alarm a little lower. Stone low alarm. RETFX. Instead of under 117. Oh, look at our Tesla ripping. We have a put spread on that. What?
Netflix options are very spready. It looked like a good call spread candidate at 1250.
Tesla. Midpoint 64. Wow, even with that rally. Ah, we sold it for $1.20 though. All right, cool. Yeah. We got huge premium for Tesla, which I didn't know why, but I know in retrospect. Remember when I say if premiums are jacked, um, and it's not earnings, you better go look for pending news because there's no gifts on Wall Street. And so the pending news was, obviously the robo taxi thing. And, where this was it going to run over a bunch of school kids? Or, be a success.
Amazon, Meta, Dan, Google, any of them could be call spreads.
I mean, do they have juice? I'm slammed here with alarms going off. I gave Spider call spread. to them, 592.85. Hasn't
593.
TEN up alarm, nice. Oh, this is what we call the Alex trade, remember? The Alex trade. Set the alarms, UPI. I it's it's bullish consolidation, but with the market whipping all over the place. Let's see where our spiders are. But that's not a compelling enough pattern for me to want to do it. Maybe, best case scenario would be a 30-minute high. All right, so Greg, our spider puts were down 57 cents. So how do you want to manage this thing? I moved the stop already to, over the high of these red bars as opposed to the green bar. But I'm thinking 30-minute high just because didn't go down on bombs.
Pretty erratic. I don't know. And it almost seems like manipulation. I mean, like, look at the size of that red bar down and then flip right back up. There's still a little less than 3 minutes to go in this five minute bar, but it's hard to make decision when things are so erratic as to the probability of it moving significantly one way or another. It's at the bottom of the trading range. Look at, the spiders. So it makes sense that there's buyers here. And obviously we all know that the news was pretty much a non-event, ignored. No one cares unless, you know, Iran does something crazy, and then all hell will probably break loose. But I mean, just looking at it technically, I think you got to wait. Yeah, maybe what time is it? 30 minutes? Let's see what happens here.
Right, that's mine. That's my take. Let it bobble around for half
On the
hour.
5 minute chart, it's at the top of the trading range. The 65-minute chart's at the bottom of the trading range. So, you know, I mean, it's come down enough to where there's buyers here, but will there be a significant amount? Too early to tell. I mean, this reversal, just the size of that down bar and back up is pretty powerful, but it's at resistance. So, initially the two bars, and there's still a minute and a half to go in this 5 minute bar. That two bar reversal initially makes me think buy. And I look to the left, and it's like there's this congestion there, and it's like sit on the sidelines and wait to see what happens. Maybe a half hour or whatever.
Yeah, all right, that's my recommendation too.
Ticks are neutral. The AD line is plus 100 or so. It's not a big deal. Oil isn't collapsing. The good thing is interest rates dropped. So, but is that just money still seeing risk out there and buying, bonds, so pushing interest rates down versus some economic implications of that being a positive? I mean, it is a short-term positive that interest rates are lower, but what is driving, that? So I suspect it's just still uncertainty. So money moving, into bonds. Still, Amazon is still below its open. Google's below its open, not moving much. Meta, you know, Microsoft. I mean, gold came off of its low and that came back up again. And I think it's a bit of, I don't know, from what I've seen, more like a minefield, you know, unless you find something on its own page.
All right, thanks, Don. I'll cancel it.
Caterpillar, top of the range here, still early from last week.
Yeah, I got an alarm. Let's see, LH, let's cancel. ATM, we got short puts, Mister, we know about, and W, SMCI, stop. Stop. Yep, looks good now. Yep. Remember you mentioned that Friday. Yep, you got your something something bar now. Yeah, that looks good. Morgan Stanley up alarm. Yeah, banks have a nice little pop there. Here, I'll give them this 30-minute high. Stop. Friday is high. Yeah, yeah. I'd like to see how it closes. All right, Valley North. Dude, I said 5 minute high. No, 5 minute shoot. Messed it up. I'm not buying 5 minute high now. Well, that was a nice pattern. Nice relative strength today. Oh, remember we were going to buy Sophie? Let's cancel that. Man, market not falling. TPR alarm, Sam, that's yours. Ollie, all right, MTG. This could be a 5 minute buy setup if you missed MTG. Looks good right here. Right, 30 went low. I mean, yeah, me. Man, I hate when gaps mess up our trades. So if this comes in and fills the gap, then it's going to be a monster topping tail. Let's hold off on that too. Shack up alarm. That's a crazy down move, but it triggered. Let's only do half of Shack. And then holding low. $196. So Alex, good call bailing on your MDB on Friday. Right, but it was an objective decision we both agreed with. But like I said, we were in hope mode for subscribers. Michael Jackson, new low. Jackson looks fantastic. RJF. Yeah, 30-minute high. I like. Let's do 30-minute high. I just don't know how much it's gonna go. To me, it's more of a put spread. And there's no juice. All right, CME, I said 5-minute high. So that triggered 275.48. I actually remember touring the CME many years ago when I had an office in Chicago. And I remember the stock being $125 when I was touring the floor. Amper, nothing. Has to take out last week's high. CMG, I gave as a put spread, hasn't triggered. Buy, let's cancel. But I'll keep my alarm. Mr. 30-minute low. AXSM was Greg's idea the other day. You can short last week's low, I like. Man, Tesla, we're going to do a case study on this. MT Live on Wednesday, 3/27/30. There's so many. It's going to be a great